Hello, welcome to Sid and Lola's podcast. I'm Jess.
And my name is Chloe, and our first official episode will be about puppies.
Okay, so before we get going, we just need to address the fact that my name is not Jeff.
I am not sat opposite Jeff, I am sat opposite Jess.
So on our intro, you will hear me saying my name is Jeff, but it's not. I was saying Jess. We had terrible mics, and so now everybody knows I'm Jess and not Jeff.
My name is Jeff. I had to sneak that in there.
Oh, fantastic. What movie is that from?
22 Jump Street.
Thank you, Channing Tatum. Okay, so on a more serious note, we're going to talk about puppies.
Bringing home your new puppy.
Bring home your new puppy and different ways of feeding your puppy, different ways your breeders might have been feeding your puppies. There is an array.
I can imagine.
Most people that are watching this have probably already brought home their puppies and will be on this journey already, and then others might be getting a puppy anytime soon. So usually you will collect your puppy from the breeder around 8 to 9 weeks old. That's roughly average. Different if you're rescuing. Some breeders like to keep hold of them until they're 10, 12 weeks old. There's a real variety out there. I rescued Piper at 4 months old, so that's a real leap. So yeah, and they will come to you on whatever the breeder has weaned them onto. Might be a dry food, might be a tinned wet food, it might be already onto raw food, which is obviously my preference as a raw food feeder.
Natural pet shop.
As a natural pet shop, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you what's your experience of your puppies that you've brought home in the past?
Well, the first two puppies that we got, they were both golden retrievers, Buddy and Toby. The first one that we got was Buddy. So adorable, such a lovely dog. He was actually related to a cross show dog. I think he was called Cat Coon Coin. He came with all of the food, everything. But poor Tobes, he was opposite end of the spectrum. We went to go and view Toby. What we didn't realise was, I think it was a puppy farm. We didn't know what we were turning up to. Literally, we just drove down this little lane and it just opened up and there was every breed of dog you can think of. So sad to see, but I met Toby and literally I couldn't leave him there. He was so cute. He was tiny, and I know you shouldn't fuel the fire, but I just could not have left him.
And that's a common story.
Yeah.
Lots of people go to these places where people breed puppies, and it can be quite clear they're breeding them for money. And then there are wonderful breeders out there that breed because they love their animals and they look after them very well. So it is important to do all of your research. But it's so common, I hear it all the time, that people go and have a look at these puppies and they feel so sorry for them because they're in such terrible conditions that they feel like they're rescuing them, even though they're handing over thousands of pounds. And that's just going to keep the breeder breeding, unfortunately.
It's a vicious circle, but, I just couldn't have left him there. Poor Toby, he was so tiny when we got him. Oh. And, he grew up to be such a lovely boy. But now going from puppies to Harley and Poppy.
Yeah.
He rescued them both from Turkey. I mean, not a clue what breed they are. They've got a bit of all sorts in them, bless them. But, going from pedigree bred puppies to rescue puppies, they were about 2 when we got them. It was completely different.
It's rescues, that's very different. So from a feeding point of view, did they come on a kibble diet, on a biscuit fed diet?
Harley and Poppy came with Lily's Kitchen. I can't quite remember with Toby, but I think Buddy was pedigree.
Pedigree chum. Pedigree chum.
that one. Yes, that's the one.
Oopsie. I mean, most breeders will have weaned the puppies onto a particular food, a particular brand, which they probably get a deal with the company.
That's true.
To give. Not all, but some. And then there will also be breeders that will wean them onto a raw diet, and they will probably give you a small amount of what they've already been eating, so that when they come to your new home and everything else is new, then the food stays the same and at least the puppies have that familiarity. Yeah. So that's usually where it goes. And then sometimes I'll get people coming in here and asking to change their diet quite quickly because they know the food they're on is not very good, or they might want to continue on with what they're feeding, which might be a really good raw food diet, and they just want a little bit more advice of how much to feed and what to feed and that sort of thing. There is so much information out there on the internet, but it is a minefield. And for some reason, it's become this really big, complicated thing of feeding dogs when it's actually not that hard and it's actually quite easy. And these bags of kibble are ultra processed foods and they come with their issues. So I'm not going to sit here and be you have to do it this way because that's the best way. I believe that there is a way for every dog and every situation, and they're not, I don't like to tar them all with the same brush, but my opinion, raw feeding is best. We're feeding carnivores, it's what they do best on. We wouldn't feed our children ultra processed food every single day, or we shouldn't. We should be feeding fresh, real food to our children as well as our dogs.
Imagine feeding kids like chocolate every day. They'd be bouncing off the walls.
All the rest of it. Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. And actually that links to puppy behaviour as well. So if you're feeding a food that is fueled with, sugars and chemicals and numbers, they will be off their tits. Literally. So that that's another positive for fresh feeding.
Yeah,
is what's in it, what you're feeding, and you're not feeding a load of rubbish. And their behaviour calms down massively. So I've seen this a lot. Again, people that might come in when their dogs are wired, and they might be on a pretty cheap ultra processed food, and then we change them over even onto a better quality food, not necessarily raw, although as I've said, that's my preference. And suddenly their behaviour almost changes overnight.
Yeah.
They're still going to be puppies. They're not going to turn into angels, but they're not so wired.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit more content after they've finished eating and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, because for the life of me, I can't remember what we fed Toby, but when we first got him, from the stuff that the people were giving him, he was so timid and so nervous, and you'd put a bit of food in front of him and he was like, nope, and he'd hide under the table.
Right.
But the second we got that routine in, we got food that he liked, all of a sudden his personality started coming out. So rather than being wide, he was the opposite. We had to try and bring that puppy out.
Yeah. Also, I think there's an element of how they feel as well. Yeah. So, we don't know this. We can only go by off their behaviour. But I think, I always liken it a little bit like if you eat a McDonald's, for example, you're usually quite hungry after about an hour because it's ultra processed food. It rushes through your digestive system and, and then you're hungry again and you start being naughty and bitey and all the rest of it. So it's very similar to that. But if you were to eat a steak or something more nutritious to a carnivore, real meat, real food, it takes longer for the digestive system to digest it, and therefore the puppies feel more content and more relaxed, and they're getting a much better nutrients out of the food that they're eating. So you end up sometimes with very wired puppies calming down quite a lot when you change their diet.
Yeah, that's a good tip actually.
Yeah. So those that are already weaned onto a raw food, usually they will be on something. There are so many foods out there already done for us now, so you don't need to DIY raw food. You don't need to be going to the butchers, and you don't need to be going to the supermarket and balancing it all out yourself and worrying about how much bone content you're giving and how much offal you're giving. It's literally done for us.
Pre-packed, ready to go.
It's pre-done. Yeah. There are some really lovely companies out there that are already doing it, and the puppy foods will probably be minced a bit finer, might have slightly less bone in it, and it will be full of lots of lovely muscle meat, which is full of amino acids, which is what you need for puppy growth and development. And so it's all done for you. So you can buy from somebody like myself, which stocks a variety of different brands, or you can do it yourself if you want to, as long as you're balancing it properly. And the balance generally is 80% meat, 10% bone, and 10% offal. That's your 80-10-10. So there is just so much we can talk about and cover. So if you want to drop us an email, if you've got any questions, where can they email us?
Yeah, send it into Sid and Lola podcast at outlook.com.
Amazing. Social media, so Instagram is Sid and Lola Raw. We've got Facebook, Sid and Lola Natural Pet Shop, and also Sid and Lola's Grooming Salon. So please take a look, give us a follow. You can listen to us on
Spotify. You can listen to us on YouTube. And
social media.
Yep, social media. We'll put the links on there so you can listen to us.
Amazing.
And we've obviously got our first intro episode out. So if you want to go back and listen to that and then join us on this one, listen to Jeff. Jess's alter ego. Jeff on the weekend.
Fantastic.
But yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys.
Thanks, guys.
You know, stick with us and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.